welcome back, Pia. It's so good to have you.
Good to be back, Drusi. Very excited to be back here again.
Yes, and so for people who do not know Pia, she is the CEO of Squadify, which is an amazing technology platform. And she had joined us for our podcast a few weeks back where we talked about hybrid workforce. If you haven't had a listen, please go ahead. And it's the Shiny Happy People podcast where we talk about hybrid workforce. We are here today to talk a little bit more about Squadify. What is Squadify? And, we know it's a tech platform, but how does it help leaders and teams to be on the same page and to enable high-performing teams? So, Pia, what is Squadify?
What is Squadify? Well, I think first we should say the world's changed, hasn't it? And that's what we were talking about on our podcast together. So nearly 62% of the world is working virtually or in a hybrid way, which is a massive shift post the pandemic. And all the gains of flexibility and freedom have some downsides to it, and we're seeing higher attrition, war for talent, pressure on resources, but also mental health issues. Here in Australia, 1 in 8 are visiting their GP with a mental health concern. So we began Squadify out of a we, not me principle. And this forms the sort of the philosophy and the basis of it. It is a technology and a human experience platform which helps leaders and their teams to connect better, to evolve their practices and thrive in the environment wherever they might choose to work or however they may choose to work. So we had spent 20 years, the co-founder and I, traveling across the globe, working with multinationals and distilling what the key success factors were for high performance organizations and teams. And being the pragmatists that we are, we actually condensed that into 3 because as humans, we can't remember much more than 3 things at once. Well, I certainly can't. So we made it simple. So these 3 things are clarity, so how clear you are about what you're doing and why you're doing it, the environment or climate, and the capability that we call competence that you drive.
3 C's is what
3 C's, that's it. So we developed the 3 C's. And we created a technology platform that helps leaders to bring their teams to complete a survey regarding those 3 C's, 37 questions, and I'll talk a little bit more about how they're structured, and then to debrief it with the team with the analytics that they have. So what we found was there was a really interesting piece of research done by the University or Booth University at Chicago that found that 72% of teams don't really know what it is that constitutes their success. So what that means is we often think we're doing better than we are. So that's what Squadify is here to solve. It gives you laser-like focus on the current situation and helps you to get really clear on the development that's required by the team, the things that they need to do more of, less of, change, tweak as the team navigates through this world of work, but it's done together. So, and it involves the very best of data analytics that are so practical and simple to understand that you very quickly can manage this yourself. You can understand the data, and then it involves the art of human conversation. So using the data to really get clear what the team agrees it's doing well on and things that it needs to improve, and then tracking that. And when you do a Squadify, you can compare your Squadifys, you can see how much where your scores have gone up or down, and you get insights and an action plan. So it's all housed on one platform.
Absolutely. And I've had the opportunity to experiment with the tool a little bit, with the platform, and what I've come to realize is 2 things, right? 2 things really stood out for me. number one, it's very different from a survey, right? Because a survey would not give you the capability to come up with action plans, to create goals for your team. That's not what a survey does. It's a one-time thing. It's done. There you go. All right, wait for the next one to come. But I think that's what Squadify is so different, right? That's why by doing it on a quarterly basis, by opening it up to the leaders and the teams, it leads to true collaboration, right? And the second thing which I came to realize was this: the platform provides the opportunity for the leaders and teams to be on the same page, because they could be perceiving the same question a little differently, right? And when they come together and they talk about it, they know, all right. So this is how I perceived it. And then there is this kind of clarification which takes place. And then it's like you use the same language, which is so important in order to align with your goals and with the actions that you're planning to take.
That's so true. Clarity has two parts: information and understanding. So quite often, when we tell people things or what we hear, we don't check for understanding. And so therefore we make assumptions. And now that we're in a more dispersed environment, we see less of one another, misunderstandings can happen, but the intensity to deliver doesn't diminish. We are still in a hailstorm of expectations. So we need to get really clear on that and find the shortcuts, the hacks of how we operate together and what true north really means, and to be able to really work out the ways of communication and how the team operates. And what we found was that wasn't happening. People complete surveys, sometimes they're organizational surveys, sometimes they never see the results of those. And they're a bit more like an opinion survey. This is accountability. And it's permission-based. So when you do a Squadify, you own the data. The team leader and the team owns the data, and the team leader can share it directly with the team. So there's full transparency. And that raises the bar, because it's accountable. If it's not great, we've got to talk about it.
Yes.
But like all relationships in life, if you leave things to fester, or you hope things are going to get better, they often don't. And so this is the way to be able to do it. But unlike many psychometrics that I've debriefed through my career, people don't get defensive. If anything, they lean in, because they can really do something with this and it can make a difference. And challenges and tensions can be resolved, clarity can be determined. And what we found when we did a piece of research with Fielding University was that happiness increased by 60% in teams that used Squadify during COVID.
Wow,
60%.
That's phenomenal.
So the acts of working together and having these conversations, taps into an innate human connectedness, that we put our sort of work armor on and pretend that we don't have, but actually it makes us feel like we're really part of a dream team, and we're part of something that's much bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. And I think I can relate to that, because I'm guilty of that. I used to have a work persona and a home persona, right? And those are two very different people. My actions, my behavior would be very different. But as I kind of grew up, I came to realize that I'm this one person. I cannot possibly pretend to be somebody else. And I think with a platform like Squadify, you just kind of shed those inhibitions that you have, and it truly brings everyone together, right? And I love that statistic. I mean, 60%. That's truly remarkable. So have you seen anything in particular, if you would want to share an example of a company or of a particular team that really stood out for you and that has undergone the entire cycle of Squadify for a year?
Well, and yes, I'm absolutely delighted to. So, and the application of Squadify is flexible. So two examples that I would give would be about a senior team that was leading a cultural transformation and used Squadify quarterly over a period of just under 2 years, and took a underperforming organization into a high performing organization that overshot its sales budget by 113%. So that's testimony to it. But another team was on a mission critical project, and the cost of them failing became huge, but the cost on them as individuals was also huge. Yes. And this was tired, burnt out. And at that point, your brain is, it doesn't have a lot of room left to find solutions. So we applied Squadify monthly for this. And so that it was small actions, and you are starting to iterate, make choices, and carve out what a way out was for that team. And that team in just 90 days achieved 22% increase in its trust of each other, and increased their execution by 14%. And further down the track, they achieved their mission critical outcome. So the ROI on that was quite a modest productivity, probably about twice for the investment. But in terms of the mitigation of risk, was 40 times. So 40 times, because if it had failed, people would have left, a lot of money would have been sunk, they would have had to start again. Whereas in this way, they were actually able to have the right conversations as a team, make some changes, admit how they were feeling, work together. They're clever human beings. They have the capacity. It's the bringing of that together that is sometimes the trickier part of the equation.
Yeah, and data, right? You're not talking in terms of opinions. You're talking with solid, hard facts, which have been provided by them, right? I mean, there is no monkeying around with that. This is what you said. No. That's what we see.
And I think what's different too is we have a lot of, you and I are very aware of, 360s and 180s. And sometimes the team leader feels, oh gosh, I'm in the spotlight again. What's the team going to say? The team leader adds their view as well as everybody else. And it's all anonymous until you come to the debrief.
Wow.
And so you don't have any idea what everyone else. It's displayed in your results. And there's a really interesting chart that looks at range. Did you all answer the questions in a similar way? And the broader the range we found from the research negatively impacts your outcomes and your performance. So you want to reduce, because then you spend less time trying to fight the internal noise of the team and instead harmonizing the genius of the team to achieve a better outcome. And so, that's that. But we've had some extremely powerful conversations where teams that are dispersed have just gone, I had no idea that you were having that experience. And so it creates a common understanding and greater connection and takes the friction points out, which means you'll go faster.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And, as we discussed in the podcast as well, like leaders who really want to serve and leaders who really, truly want to make a difference, but don't know where to start, gives them the starting point, right? So absolutely. So Pia, thank you for sharing everything that you did. Is there anything else that you want to talk about when it comes to Squadify and the difference it makes?
I'd probably say the final part is, if HR leaders and OD leaders are listening to this, then they may think, well, what's the value to them? And what Squadify has been able to do is provide an enterprise report for HR and OD, which then looks at the trend analysis across multiple teams. And that can give you every quarter an audit effectively on the strengths and the areas of development across your organization, which means that when you're trying to plan and budget for development and support those strategic initiatives around employee experience, about value propositions, this gives you the data to be able to do that at the same time, whilst your teams are using it to enhance their own performance.
There you go. It's a win-win and win.
It is win-win. That's it.
Absolutely. For the leaders, for the teams, and for the HR and L&D org as well. So absolutely. That's brilliant. And thank you for bringing us Squadify, Pia. I think it's going to be exciting as we use it as well internally as well as for our clients. So we're super excited and super psyched up. So for everyone watching, if you want to know what is Squadify even more, when you dig deeper, feel free to visit their website. It is squadify.net. Once again, it is squadify.net. Visit the website. You'll get to know a lot more as to what this brilliant team is up to. And there's always something new coming up. Like every time I visit the website, oh, there's a new resource. Oh, there's a new data point. So I love that. I love that you're constantly iterating, you're constantly learning, you're constantly putting that, all of that into Squadify to support the leaders. So thank you for that, Pia.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Absolute wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you.